Paul said, "People, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I looked carefully, I found an altar with this inscription, To an Unknown God." Welcome to the Unknown God podcast with your hosts, Jonathan and Marvin.
Hey, what up, everybody? Happy Wednesday evening.
Happy Wednesday.
Welcome to season 1, episode 2 of the Unknown God podcast. I am Jonathan.
My name is Marvin. How are you
Maverick,
guys?
brother.
Marvin.
Marvelous Marvin. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? How
I'm
are
okay.
you?
I'm all right. I can't complain. I am excited about our conversation tonight and just this opportunity to be back in this space with my good friend and my brother. Of course, this is the first time that we are doing this podcast with you on the East Coast and me over here in the Midwest.
Right, because the last time I was in Omaha, and that was a blast.
Dude, and it feels like forever and a day ago. But I am...
Yo, time flies.
Bruh. But at least we are able to be back together in this space. It is Wednesday night, so I want to give a special shout out to our church families. Church on Purpose here in Omaha, what up? The Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Richmond, Virginia, what up?
What's happening?
Glad that you all are joining in this evening. Excited about this conversation because it's very relevant for some recent events.
Yeah, man. This is anniversary season out here in these streets.
It really is, isn't it?
Anniversary season. So yeah, we've been a bunch of celebrations. In fact, we were when I was out in Omaha, we recorded the first episode together. That was part of the reason. It was kind of lead up to celebration for the 5th anniversary for Church on Purpose, and the
5
5th
years, man.
pastoral anniversary for my brother and my friend as he serves faithfully and powerfully in the Omaha community.
The church is getting ready to go to kindergarten.
Yeah, turn up. Meanwhile, I'm out here still trying to get out of pull-ups.
Trying to get what?
trying to get out of pull-ups. Get out of pastoring pull-ups in this new station. I'm only 2
years of pastoral ministry at the Mount Carmel, and what is this? 87% of your pastorate has been in a pandemic.
Bro, it's been wild, man. I actually had the numbers written down the other day. I just wanted to see, but it's definitely been, definitely more than half. I was at we shut down 2 weeks before what would have been my 1-year anniversary of starting at Mount Carmel. So March 15th was March 15th, 2020 was our last time together in person. And
Wow.
I mean, without we had some outdoor stuff during the pandemic, but in the traditional sense of the every Sunday piece, it's our last time together. And that was two weeks before I would have been first year down. And then I'm just thrown into the midst of madness, along with the rest of the world, trying to figure out what's happening. So,
but I think
God is good.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why this conversation tonight is just a little bit more meaningful. Because COVID has really forced everybody to evaluate lots of things. God bless you. And
Thank you.
And one of the things that it has forced us to do is, especially early on, most people got to slow down and kind of stop and had a lot more time to just reflect and spend more time with their thoughts. And I think that through COVID, mental health has become a much more prominent concern and focus throughout many communities, and just the need to be able to be more intentional about our mental health through that process. And one great practice for maintaining good mental health is the process of reflection.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited tonight. This particular conversation is about the power in processing significant moments.
Yeah.
and this is a really timely conversation, like you said, with Church on Purpose celebrating 5 years of ministry here in Omaha, Nebraska. You celebrating 2 years of ministry there in pastoral ministry there at the Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Richmond, Virginia. We have some really significant moments at that we have just hit within what the last 2 weeks
Yeah.
that are that are really special and really kind of hallmarks. So
Mhm.
you had your anniversary before we had our church anniversary. So talk a little bit about your your thought process and your feelings about 2 years of pastoral ministry at Mount Carmel.
Um, Jeremiah comes to mind,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in this season, because probably in the last 6 months leading up to this anniversary, there've probably been multiple times where I was just like, "Yo, I'm good."
Yeah.
I'm good. In fact, I can absolutely recall having a moment and asking God, like, "Why did you send me here?" Um, and it's so, probably from June to about, yeah, June up to, maybe about, late August, September, I was just, kind of in this like weird funk. It was just like, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I had a lot of different thoughts and ideas, and I knew that I was still, weirdly confident that I was where I was supposed to be, even though it was a really, really hard moment.
Uh huh.
So on top of COVID, on top of all of that, it was, kind of dealing with facility challenges, dealing with, just, you learn. I think COVID has given us a learning curve,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, particularly for in my context, learning and being in an established congregation. The church, the end of October, will be celebrating 134 years
Wow.
of existence, and so, I've been there for what, a drop in the bucket of that. A little over 1% of that time,
Mm-hmm.
um, I've been there. But yet, you see kind of the struggles of, things that are good that have been ingrained in the
Yeah.
congregation, but also things that are problematic, right? And trying to deal with the problems. And I really, honestly, until my wife had brought it up to me, I really hadn't taken a whole lot of time to just stop and think about some of the dope stuff that we've done.
Yeah.
Um, and and so I think it was probably around homecoming, somewhere in that time period, where I was sitting there. We did a video just kind of sharing like all of the things, that we had accomplished over this short period of time with people's generosity and stuff. Because you try to do that from time to time, just let people know, hey, you're giving, you're helping us do this work of ministry through your gifts. It's COVID, so it's harder, so but here's some things we've accomplished. And I
Yeah.
look back at it and I remember distinctly feeling like, yo, I'm about to cry. Like, just because it was just like, so I was just like, yo, like, okay, guys, so like we really are doing stuff. Like, it's some really bad stuff that we got to deal with, but it also,
Mm-hmm.
like, in small ways you're doing it. And I had a moment like that recently as we approached Clergy Appreciation Month this month, where I remember 2 years ago, it was myself and two other ministers that were at the church. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and um, and now we are, now it's seven of us total. So we've added
Wow.
four. Not necessarily that they've been called, but they've, some people have come back, some people have joined the staff, and they're doing, great things at the congregation. So,
Yeah.
like, I'm really, really grateful to God for the good things that we add. And I think sometimes that can be our bent. It's like, we reflect, but we're always looking for what can we do better.
Yeah.
And we don't pause to say, hey, here's what we've accomplished.
Yeah.
Right. And so as we, headed up to that second year anniversary, like, that's really what my thought pattern. It was just like, I was trying to think about the things that we had done well,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing, yeah, we got some places to improve, but God really is moving and making some things happen. Um, and working some things out for us and doing some amazing things through the life of our congregation. Even though sometimes it can get frustrating, it doesn't feel like it. Um, so I was really, really grateful for that. Like, really, really grateful for that. The Lord still is God is still using God's people. Uh, you know, and feeling like some of the things I've been saying are, maybe the seeds I've been planting are taking root now.
Yeah.
And so just really grateful for that, for those things.
That's
Yeah,
dope.
yeah,
That's dope. And I totally feel you, man. I think one of my biggest challenges, um, I'm good at celebrating others, um, and I'm not really good at celebrating the work that I've contributed to,
hmm
and my contributions to that work, because I'm so future focused.
yeah,
In all of the personality assessments that I take, it always ends up coming back with visionary being one of my dominant traits. If it's not
hmm
number one, it's like a 1A.
hmm
And as a visionary, like, I'm always looking down the road. And so that has, through the years, been very challenging for me, because I'm always looking at what we have the potential to be. I don't focus a lot on the progress that we've made. It's like I'm always looking towards college graduation, and I'm not celebrating the fact that, I'm not celebrating kindergarten graduation, because it's like kindergarten is nice, but college graduation is the goal. And so over the last couple of years, I've just tried to be more intentional about slowing down and looking around at what God is doing.
yeah, yeah,
And it was especially, like, that was really weighty, coming up on this 5 year mark, because, I mean, the 5 years, on one hand, it feels like it's been forever. But on the other hand, it feels like it went by so fast.
right.
And there are just so many memories and so many moments over the last 5 years, that, really slowing down and taking the time to reflect and look back and think about the people that we've had the opportunity to connect with along the way, and how people's lives have changed, the way that people's lives are different now, even how I'm different now.
hmm
It was a really, really powerful weekend. But what was really interesting this particular weekend, and it's funny because you said it, you said it too. You were talking about how Jen helped you to really be able to identify some of the things that had been happening, some of the things that you didn't see and maybe had been looking past. And I think one of the things that stuck out for me is for me, I think I have to reflect with other people,
hmm
because they help me to identify things that I don't just naturally see, again, because I'm always so future focused. I'm not always seeing those things. And so when it comes to reflection and really being able to see the nuance of what God has been doing beyond just my limited perspective and purview, like, bringing other people into that space to reflect with, has been, I think, was probably the most impactful um element of this weekend. And I'll tell you, like, the one that was just like that, I totally did not see. So we were blessed in year four, approaching year five. We were blessed to be able to ordain our first two deacons at the church.
hmm
And we did that in the middle of COVID. I mean, we weren't able to have a formal celebration for them. Their acts of ordination were conducted in their own living rooms, with just their families present.
Right.
But the reason that I bring that up is because when I was talking to my dad, he pointed out the fact that at our baptism service on Sunday, which concluded our anniversary weekend,
hmm
at our baptism service, the three children who were baptized were all children of leaders. It
Wow.
was Jada, which of course is Janae and I's oldest daughter, and then Layla, who is the daughter of our Deacon Wells,
hmm
and then Faith, who is the daughter of our other Deacon Adele. And so it
hmm
was, I mean, it was really crazy
That's dope.
that, to see how God is moving in the households of our church leaders.
Yeah.
And that was something that I very easily overlooked, but being able to reflect with, with my dad, he had a different perspective on what was taking place and was able to add that little nugget to it that helped to enrich even the reflection that much more, to be able to say, wow, God is really doing some exciting things.
Yeah, yeah, that's man, that's awesome, man. That's really great.
Dude.
That's you know what I'm saying. And it is those like small moments that you just like, okay, God, I see you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, God, I see you out here. Like okay, you working, you doing it. You making it happen. Um, man, that's incredible because that's what you look for. Like, and it's interesting. I was wrestling with a series that I preached before, leading up to past an anniversary. I started at the end of July and preached through the third weekend in September,
Okay.
and it was called Shift, Changing for Impact. And but
Mm-hmm.
one of the texts that I wanted to preach that I didn't preach because I finally discerned that God wasn't talking. That God wasn't talking to the people. God was talking to me. Uh, um, I looked at that show for 3 weeks. So it was just like, this week, God, no. Why, God? Because it's for you. Huh? No, this is for the people. I see it. No, it's for you.
Bruh.
But anyway,
Bruh, no,
but
you're spot on, because literally on my remarkable tab where I jotted my notes for tonight.
yeah.
One of my notes says, sometimes as leaders, the things we think are for other people are for us.
Oh my gosh. Listen, man. So in the text was the valley of the dry bones,
Mm.
the visual or the vision that Isaiah
Bruh.
and and it's interesting because the way that the Lord showed me that this text was not for me, that this text was not for the church, it was for me,
Uh-huh.
was that he reminded me of the moment that I asked him, why do you have me here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And literally was standing, well, I was standing in puddles of water when that happened. It
Yeah.
wasn't dry bones, but it was water.
Wet towel.
But but the feeling that I feel like, Ezekiel looking at,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in this valley, and we know, there's vision and all of that, but in this valley where he sees nothing but death,
Mm-hmm.
like God literally asking me the question, can these dry bones live?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and reminding me of what I needed to do in order for life to come, and return to these bones,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and so I was just like, all right, I won't preach it for the people. I'll preach. I was upset too. I was just like, man, this is a good one. He's like, yeah, for you, so for everybody. I was like, okay, people dead situations. Nah. I was like, we gonna hoop and holler. Nope, no, you're not. You better read it and keep reading and keep chewing on it, brother.
Right.
Because that's for you. But yeah, man, like, so but that was just, I mean, just so, just being able to like sit and reflect and think about like those little signs of life
Yeah.
that you see, the signs that you are moving in the right direction, of the things that you're doing, that they are bearing fruit. And I know I'm an impatient person, so like I'm like, listen, I want to do this today, and I want it to be done like later today.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but God telling me just chill, just like follow directions.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be all right. You stay in step with the spirit, you're gonna be in good shape. So, um, yeah, that was a blessing.
Yeah.
It's a blessing, man. Just to be able to see this little signs of life
Mm-hmm.
that are around us. Um,
Yeah.
like all the leaders' kids getting baptized, or um,
Dude.
or the people. For me, it was recognizing the people that God is sending me
Mm-hmm.
to help me,
Yeah.
and that has, like, in the last like probably month or so, that has really been like really heavy. Like God literally telling me, listen, I'm about to stop sending you people, because every time I send you somebody, you delay on getting them involved,
Right.
delay on giving them tasks because you're just unsure or whatever. Like, they're there to help. They say they come to help. They're there to help. Use them.
Yeah.
I'm sending them to, like, guys. I'm sending, one person has been hitting me up almost since the time I got to the church. And I'm just like, I don't want to. God, like, don't worry about none of that stuff.
Right.
Like, don't worry about offending anybody, any of that. You do what I'm telling you to do. I'm sending you help. Accept the help that I'm sending you.
Yeah.
And let me do my thing.
Hmm.
you know. So it's
Well, I think that is, I think that's what Paul talks about in First Corinthians 3 when, he's talking about the lack of competition between his ministry and Apollos' ministry, and he's
yeah,
just like, I plant the seed, Apollos waters, but God is the one who brings the increase.
right.
And I think what like the way that ties into kind of my reflections over this anniversary period is just remembering that God is sovereign. Like that God
Right.
is God. God has a plan. God knows what needs to take place. He knows why he's doing what he's doing, where he's doing it, and he knows why he's not doing it in certain places. And I think sometimes, whether it's pastoral or whether it's, just in life in general, and I think those of you that are watching live tonight can probably attest to this, but a lot of times we have our own ideas about how we want God to produce fruit in our lives. We know where we want God to bring
Mm-hmm.
growth.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't see things growing in that space, it can become very easy to get discouraged,
Mm-hmm.
to get frustrated. But I think that's why that's part of the power of processing significant moments in life.
Yeah.
Because when we actually slow down enough to really look around and see what God is doing, we see him, we know that he's working, but we see him working in places and in spaces that we haven't prioritized,
Yeah. Yeah.
that aren't in, on our list, that those places aren't at the top of our list. But obviously God knows what he's doing by working in that space now and saving the space where we want to see growth for something later. And
Yeah.
I'll give you a very a prime example, because God just continues to both challenge me and encourage me through all of this. We had a phenomenal COVID celebration for our 5th anniversary. Last Wednesday, we were able to license the first minister at Church on Purpose. So all around, this has just been an amazing year. We ordained our first 2 deacons. We licensed our first minister. God is doing exciting things as He's growing leadership at our church. On Saturday, we were able to get together on Saturday evening for our anniversary worship service, and it was another great time. And matter of fact, I could even go back to last Sunday before last, when God did some really exciting things during our worship service.
Yeah.
And then, of course, come up to Wednesday with the ministerial licensing service, come into Saturday evening with our anniversary service. Great. Go into Sunday morning with just a family fellowship where we were able to get together and eat and just spend some time hanging out, and then transitioning from there to wrapping up the weekend with the baptism service. And just really excited and grateful for what God has done, and spent the whole week reflecting on what he's doing and seeing what he's doing. And then we came up on our monthly community prayer service on Tuesday. So the first Tuesday of every month here in Omaha, churches get together and we have a monthly community prayer service.
Mm-hmm.
And I am responsible for kind of coordinating that through my job, and so I'm there at all of them, and sharing that information with everyone, and so in my mind, I was like, man, we just came out of this great anniversary. Everybody's pumped up about reaching these souls for Jesus, and blessing the community, and blah 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 blah. I was like, everybody finna be there. Got to the service on Tuesday, and nobody else was there.
Oh wow.
And I don't mean like nobody period, but I mean like nobody from the church was there.
Right.
And it, and in the beginning of the prayer service, for a moment, I was sitting there and I was kind of stuck in my frustration because I was like, well, God, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? I thought that we just celebrated all this blah 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 blah, and and something's still not connecting. And in that moment, it was kind of one of those moments where it was like, yeah, but you're forgetting all the work that I'm doing,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
and it was very clear. God was just like that's coming. That
Yeah.
that's coming. That's on its way. But there are some other things that I'm doing before that
Yeah.
that are priorities right now. And you have to be able to identify the priorities and celebrate the priorities for right now, for this
Yeah.
moment, because there's something else that obviously needs to be done. There are some other areas of growth that need to take place. There are some other avenues of progress that need to take place right now. And so don't get frustrated because you don't see me doing what you want me to do.
Right.
Appreciate and celebrate that I'm still working in
Yeah.
the places where I need to be working, because I know what tomorrow holds. I know
Yeah.
what's needed for next week. I know what's required for next month.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be frustrating, man. It can be frustrating, but if we're
Listen,
going to trust God, we got to trust God.
all the way. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just like just hearing you talk about, just hear you talk about that, how we just like, because we have this idea that, like you said, that because we've, reached this point or reached this particular level or reached this milestone, that people are going to act in a particular type of way, or that everything is in order.
Mm-hmm.
When in actuality, like, it's always still more work to be done. It's always still more hearts to be changed, or more parts of the heart. I mean, that's even evident even in the leaders, like in us as leaders, how
Yeah.
God has kind of had to continue to work on us. you know um and and so if God is still working on us, then surely he's still working on the people that that we're called to serve, to lead through serving. um so yes, it's just celebrating, and that's one thing that I've had to really work on in the pandemic, is like celebrating what is here,
Yeah.
not worrying about what's
What
not.
isn't? Yep.
you
Yep.
know um
Yep.
Celebrating who is here. I'm like, God, why the people not coming, the numbers on the live stream are level or lower.
Mm-hmm.
um what I'm saying, like, I'm asking for help and people not showing up. It's the same folks. Like, um what's happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's happening?
And you over there not getting no sleep and being
Listen,
tired and scrambling and trying to do 87,000 things that you think the Lord wants you to do.
listen. The guy was just like, man, I got this, man. Just chill, bro.
He hit you with that Martha, Martha,
Yeah, yeah. Be Marvin.
dude.
But yeah, shout out to everybody that's watching live tonight too. Y'all say hi in the comments if you're able to.
Yeah.
Y'all in various places, YouTube, Facebook, um, church pages, Unknown God podcast page. Please go like and share our page, all that good stuff. We probably should have said all of that in the beginning. But hey, here we are. Just wanted
It's
to give
episode 2.
everybody.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. And so, because we did say that we was gonna kind of talk a little Bible um in the midst of all of this sharing tonight. But when we were kind of thinking about these significant moments,
Mm-hmm.
one of the texts that jump up, that always kind of jumps up for me, is a story of the Israelites crossing over into the promised land, and how God tells them to um, hey, my mother-in-law is watching. Hey, Minister Tate. That's one of the ministers that showed up in this last year, doing a great job. But Joshua chapter 4, when we look at this whole notion of um, the people crossing over into the promised land.
Yeah.
um, and understanding, kind of kind of what's happening there, what God tells him to do. In particular, around verses 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. Um, it says, I'm trying to get to it now. It said, pass on before the ark of the Lord your God in the midst of the Jordan, and take up each of you a stone upon his shoulder, according to the number of tribes of people of Israel. That would be 12. Uh, that this may be a sign among you. When your children ask in time to come, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever. Um, and I should have grabbed this when I came from church. So when our home church in Chesterfield, shout out Union Branch Baptist Church,
The
11521 River
River
Road,
Road.
Chesterfield, South Chesterfield, Virginia now, 23838.
Oh, they call
Where
it South Chesterfield
it's
now.
South Chesterfield now.
Oh
They're
Lord.
switching it up. We got too many people, so they can't be one Chesterfield. It's South and North. Uh, but when a few years back they demolished the older building that serves as like an educational space, and I made it a point. I wasn't there for the demolishment, but I made it a point to make sure that I got bricks from those buildings, and I keep a brick in my office because the
Mm-hmm.
brick always reminds me of of what the Lord had done there, for me, growing up there, but also for in the life of the church, having been, kind of present in the midst of the transition from, from the older building into the newer building, and then having served in a newer building with the educational wing on the back and all of that was kind of, it's always been a reminder for me that, like, hey, God can do it for you too.
Yeah.
Right, that wherever I'm serving, that God is able to do it for you. So when I think about these stones that that the Israelites have to carry, um, and it's interesting they have to carry the stones. There's something about that, but they're carrying the stones as a memorial to um, remember what happened. And I try to think, I was trying to think like what is this? What is the stone? Like I saw for your 5th anniversary, the church got you um, like a glass, like the glass plaque thing. I don't know what they call it.
Yeah. A glass
Jennifer,
plaque thing will work.
yeah, Jennifer. If Jennifer was on here, she could tell me exactly what it's called because she knows all of that stuff. Anyway, that's all another conversation. She just be knowing stuff. I'm like, how do you know that? But yeah. So I saw that they gave you that, and we often do that to mark those, kind of major moments, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's I was trying to think like what I didn't really have a like I had a moment of reflection, but I don't have like reminder of the tangible reminder of the stone
Yeah.
of the stones or of the moment um that I could, show to Marvin and Jay or say, hey, here's where we were when we got some pictures, and I guess maybe our Facebook feed or something will be the reminder if Facebook doesn't shut down again. But but like, just kind of thinking about like the significance of ensuring that we mark these major moments, and it doesn't have to be, anniversary.
Yeah.
Because for some people we carry, I mean, for Jesus, we're going to talk a little bit more about another scene, but really, you think about Jesus, what was his thing? It was the scars, like from the crucifixion that, they say, what the Ty Tribbett song says, he still has nails in his hands and in his feet.
Yeah.
Right, nail prints in his hands and in his feet to show, and he used that as proof of like, yo, I'm real, yo, I've been through something, right?
Yeah.
um and so, so I think it is, I think this is just a good reminder, this text about marking, about how good it is for us to mark those moments in some way, shape, or form, so that
Yeah.
we can um pass, so that we can show sometimes, show tangibly, but sometimes it's more showing through word and deed. Hey, I remember when I was here,
Yeah.
and I see that you're here now, because this
Yeah.
was about showing it to the children, right? The reminders, the memorial wasn't really about the people that were going over, they were going to be there, but it was about bringing the generations in the future back to say, hey, when we crossed over into this land, this is a sign, this is a memorial that shows us that God is faithful to God's promise.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I think,
yeah,
that's a such a needed and necessary point, because when we don't pause to reflect, and when we don't pause to process these significant moments, when we don't allow ourselves to experience them and to really crystallize what's happening in these moments, it's so easy for them to fade in our memory.
yeah,
I think it was last year. I have no concept of time now, thanks to COVID. But at some point, at least a year ago, in one of the sermons that I was preaching, I told everybody to start a God Did It journal.
mm-hmm.
Because so often when we come up against new challenges and new obstacles and things, it is beneficial for us to be reminded of what God has already done, and that helps to encourage us and give us the motivation to realize that if He did it before, He can do it again. You
Same
know,
God right now.
and so one of our members actually created journals. He made journals,
Yeah.
and made them available to the church, and they're God Did It journals, where we were supposed to log, like, as God was doing things and God was working, like,
Mm-hmm.
log that, so that on those days where we feel discouraged or we feel defeated or we feel deflated, and we don't feel like we can go forward, or we don't feel like we can operate and function in victory, we can go back and be reminded of the things that God has done. And so I think, on one hand, it is so poignant and so necessary to have that thing that we can look at and be reminded of what God did, and the fact that God did something for us. Because there are times in life where we feel like God is super distant, and where our memory gets really short, and we're wondering if He's going to be able to do anything. And so, having something tangible that we can go back and look at reminds us of His commitment to us. It's almost, kind of like our our wedding bands.
Yeah.
And there was a sermon that Sheridan Nelson preached years ago, where he talked about getting you a commitment device,
Mm,
something that you can look at that reminds you of the commitment that you made to God.
that's good.
And I think that, similarly, those stones in Joshua 4, those are a commitment device, but those are reminders of God's commitment to us.
Yeah.
And I think the question that I would pose to everybody that's listening to this today, that's watching this, or watching this whenever, is what do you have that reminds you not only of your commitment to God, but what do you have that reminds you of God's commitment to you?
Yeah.
Something that when you feel alone, and when
Yeah.
when you feel lost, and when you feel like you don't have direction, or when you're feeling defeated or overwhelmed by life, that you can look at and be reminded of how much God loves you, and how committed God is to you winning, and how committed God is to working out His plan
Yeah.
in your life. Because sometimes you can't depend on your own memory to be able to get you through those moments. Sometimes
Yeah.
you need some external stimuli that you can rely on, that can remind you of who He is and who you are in Him.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you, dude. Like, that is even making me think, like, what are those kind of things that Janae and I can share with our children,
Yeah.
as a demonstration of of who God is, and what He's done for us.
Yeah.
Maybe it's this 1999 Lincoln Navigator with the busted transmission now, that
Uh-oh.
that somehow made its way out here to Omaha, Nebraska, from all the way from Norfolk, Virginia,
Yeah.
and has been back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Just I don't know, but being intentional about thinking about those things and figuring out those things, identifying those things, and then placing them. Because I
Yeah.
think what's also interesting in the text is the placement of the stones.
Yeah.
They were intentional about putting them in a place where they knew the children would see them.
Yeah.
And because they are the river stones, they're obviously going to look different than the stones that have been sitting on land their entire lives. And
Yeah.
so putting it in a place where it can create questions.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of
How did
almost like
these get
the
here?
crutch that's, you know, the crutch that's sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, where people come in and be like, you know, why you got that crutch in the corner? I'm glad you asked. Let
Yeah.
me tell
Yeah.
you about what Jesus did for me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting you said it. 'Cause, you know, I mentioned Facebook earlier, but one of the things that when I engage in social media, pretty much on a daily basis at this point, you know, one of the places I make sure I go is the memories.
Mm,
Because going back and remembering where I was and what was happening, and
yeah.
kind of knowing some of the things that I've posted or moments that have been shared, um, have been really helpful in
Hmm.
times where I felt like, I just don't know what's good. And then I go back and I done posted some encouraging word 10 years ago. And I'm like, wow, I needed to read this today. Way to go, Marvin.
Right.
You said this here for other people, but really it was for you. You were talking to your future self.
The time traveling preacher.
Right. Yeah. So, I was just thinking about that as you shared, as you were sharing about like kind of what are those things that we have, Um, it was funny. We recently moved, um and I'm trying to think about like kind of what we have even from like our first house. We still have like some pictures and stuff that we had up from like our first, from our first house, of, from the various moves that we've had to make, since we've been married. But like just having a few of those things, not a lot, because then you become a hoarder. But a few of those things is helpful to, to be able to remember and to be able to tell the story of, kind of where the Lord has brought. Where the Lord has brought us from,
Yeah.
which is a really powerful thing to remember, because I mean, the older I get, man, like I'm just really understanding that
The old people.
I'm really understanding them, man. Like the Lord, when you said the Lord brought you from a mighty long way, I ain't understand when I was 15, but man, I'm gonna be 40 next year. Like I'm remembering, like like my way ain't been long as theirs, but he brought me from a long way, man.
Yeah.
I get Lucille Lewis, man. Like I understand. You
Bruh.
know what I'm saying?
Wow.
I get it.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm really starting to get it in the real, in some of the older saints that, I'm privileged to pastor now, like just, really starting to understand that part of the journey for myself, and being able to look back
Yeah.
and, kind of have collected collected a bunch of Goliath's heads,
Yeah.
Goliath swords, and just, these things that we have in our memory bank to say, yo, God brought you over this.
Yeah.
God kept you through that, it's just it's incredible, and it does, build the faith. And I think we do have to spend more time in reflection
Hmm.
on what God has done, to remind ourselves of what God can do.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to think that God is limited to our capacity.
Yeah.
And God is certainly not. And it's wild, because that's one thing I've been preaching like a lot this year, is just, man, God is not limited by you or me.
Right.
We gotta get out of that kind of mindset. So yeah.
Well, I think what's interesting about what you said is that God kind of is limited by us, because he will only, he will only do what we have faith to believe.
Yeah.
He isn't limited by us, but his activity in our lives
Yeah.
is limited by us. And
Yeah.
our lack of belief. And I think that's why, interestingly enough, in Matthew 17, when Jesus comes down from the Mount of Transfiguration and he heals the man's son who's possessed by a demon, in that process, the father's like, dude, if you can do anything, please do something. Jesus is like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
nothing is impossible. And he's like, well, help my unbelief. And,
Right.
and I think that should be all of our prayers in those moments where we're struggling to have the God-sized faith, where we're struggling to believe bigger.
Believe bigger.
Our prayer should be similar to that of the father in the text, man. God, I believe, but help my unbelief. Help that part of me that is still holding back and not surrendering all. Help that part of me that is still trying to figure out my own way to work it out, and my own slick way to use my skills that I've developed over the years to be able to get it done in a way that I know is not pleasing to you. Like help the part part of me that doesn't believe in this moment that you're going to be able to do this. The part of me that keeps doubting, and the part of
Yeah.
me that's still overwhelmed with anxiety, and the part of me that's still scheming and plotting and, and figuring out who I can get over on so that I can get this done. Like help that part of me so that I
Yeah.
can fully and wholly and totally believe you, so that what you do in my life isn't limited in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to see the fullness of what you want to do.
The fullness. Now unto him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we could ask or think, according to the power that is what at work within
Us.
us.
Yep.
And it's wise. I was posting that like every day for the first half of the year. It's like there's no limit to what God can do. And literally, it was like God spoke to me one day.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's a feeling or an unction or an urge, but this was audible in my spirit. It was like, yeah, there is a limit. The only limit is you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how much are you going to believe? And like, and even in the challenging days that I've had to face in the last couple of months, where I've kind of had my own questions about ministry and my own questions about like being where I am. Like, God has reminded me, like, your lack of faith that I've got you right where you're supposed to be and that I've got you, period,
Yeah.
is limiting is limiting my ability to do what needs to be done. So I was just like,
Yep.
all right, God, like,
Believe
believe
bigger.
there. Hey, the shirts are cool too. If y'all still want one, you can head over to the church website. But yeah, but that's really like a thing. Like, it's because that was my challenge for the church. But really, what I've discovered to this point in the year is that that really was a challenge for me because I had no idea what we were going to be dealing with. I knew we had some stuff to face. I didn't know the extent of what it
Yeah.
was, and so like the extent really kind of like maybe it had me saying wild stuff like maybe this is too much
Mm-hmm.
for me or
Yeah.
for God.
Yeah.
What I'm saying? Like and it's just but then the Lord reminded me through people and through reflection and devotion. It's like, all right, I got you, man. Just hold steady, you know.
Dude.
Um, so the journey, so the journey, and I think that's something that you know if as a pastor, if I had opportunity, well, I mean, I do have opportunity, but if like I was to have a conversation of people were to ask me about like the faith journey of a faith leader,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's just as up and down as yours is,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, that sometimes I waver in my faith and my belief, and I've tried to be kind of transparent about that
Yeah.
sermonically as well. Just say like, look, I've had my moments where I was just like, nah. Like I just my faith ain't there. But then I've also looked
Mm-hmm.
around and said, the faith that they had to overcome or to achieve or to accomplish or to move into this new level, like that's the faith I'm aspiring towards. Faith
Yeah.
that allows God to do incredible things, like move across the country from Norfolk to Omaha.
Dude.
And
But so interestingly enough, as we're talking about reflection in the church, celebrating 5 years of ministry, I always tell our church that people think it takes great faith to move to move your family halfway across the country to a place where you only know one person and start a church. But in my eyes, that faith pales in comparison to the people who who went to church in those people's basement. You talking about some great faith, brother? And I tell them all the time, like I don't know that I have the faith to go to church in somebody's house,
yeah,
and in their basement in particular, and so faith is one of those things that is built up as it revisits its resume,
ugh.
and
Oh,
and I think
somebody
that
put that in the comments right now. Put it in the
when
comments, somebody right now. Faith is something that is rebuilt as it revisits its. That is, hold up. Faith is something that is built up that as it revisits its resume. Woo, woo.
I reference regularly David's experience as he is preparing to fight Goliath, and everybody's like, dude, you can't go do that. And David is like, the same Lord who delivered me from the hand of the bear and the paw of the lion, like the same one who gave me victory over them is the same
Yeah.
one that's going to give me victory over this uncircumcised Philistine.
Yeah.
And
He didn't call his name. He was just like
dude,
that guy.
there's another term that that black folks use in our vernacular that
Yeah, yeah,
would equate to uncircumcised Philistine, um,
yeah.
but but it is in that moment as David stands on the plain and is looking at this guy that everybody else is scared to fight. He reflects on the victories that God has given him before, and that solidifies his assurance that when God gave him the victory the first time when he should have lost, and then God did it again, he
Yeah.
knows without a doubt now that God is able to give him victory when defeat seems sure.
Yeah.
And for all of us, even those of us that are here in this is sharing in this space right now, there are some things that are in front of us that look like they are going to be difficult, if not impossible to overcome. But if we will review the resume of faith in our lives,
Yeah.
we will see that we have been in these similar circumstances before, maybe not to this degree, but we've been in these similar circumstances before, and God was able to bring us through it. I can remember so many times as a teenager just thinking that it was the end of the world. you know,
Yeah.
getting this report card and having to bring it home to my parents, and just knowing that I was going to be in the obituaries next week, and totaling my mom's car the day of
Listen.
homecoming, and while my dad is out of town, while I'm driving my friend to his house after they done told me 87 times not to have anybody else ride in the car, and knowing that I'm going to be in the obituaries the next week. I mean, so many times that I just thought life was over, and it was just the most overwhelming and difficult situation and circumstance, and I got through it. And then something else came along, and I didn't know whether I was going to get through it, and I got through it. And I think that's the same for all of us. We all have that story. If we are alive and breathing now, it is because we have developed a reputation for being able to succeed in circumstances that look like they should defeat us. But we continue to be victorious. And the more that we think about those things and consider those things, then I believe it gives us more courage to be able to move forward. But I do have one warning in all of this.
One warning. Help us.
And I think the warning is that we can mark, but we have to keep moving.
Yeah.
Lest the stones become our gods.
Yeah. Be stuck in the river.
So, I mean, it's interesting that they place the stones near the river, but the majority of those individuals would go to live very far away from that place.
Yeah.
Because their inheritance wasn't on the banks of the Jordan.
So Jordan was just part of the journey.
It was part of the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
And so I'm a coach. I love coaching, and so I study coaches. And one of my favorite coaches to study and to try to learn from is, the most successful college coach of all time, none other than Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
And as many national championships as this guy has won, what's really interesting about his philosophy is he has a 72-hour rule.
Mm-hmm.
And so their teams fight all year to win a national championship. And when they win that national championship, he gives them 72 hours to celebrate. And at the end of that 72 hours, they got to go back to work.
Yeah.
Because that one victory is not the last. And if you want to continue to have victories, you got to continue moving forward. And I think that's why it's important that we learn how to celebrate, but we have to keep the celebration in its proper context.
Right.
lest the celebration become the goal. And we keep celebrating stuff that we did 15, 20, 30 years ago. And we have nothing new to celebrate about what God has been doing because we've been stuck on the Jordan when he's been trying to get us to take out Jericho.
Or we've been stuck on the Mount of Transfiguration, trying to build monuments to
Trying to
stuff,
build some tents.
trying to build some tents to stuff that was just supposed to. Look, I'm letting you in the inner circle, and then you see something that ain't nobody else gonna see, and you out here like, it is good that we are here. Let us stay. Let us
Everybody
stay.
else down in the valley.
Let's
Just
just stay here and enjoy and bask in this. And he's like, nah, 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 nah. Don't tell nobody about this, man. What you doing?
I ain't come from heaven to hang out with y'all on the top of the mountain, man.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
still got work to do. And I think that, in church, when I mean scripture is very clear, where there's no vision the people perish.
yeah,
And and I think we have to be very careful with how we celebrate. It's good to reflect and it's good to process the significant moments, but we can't stay stuck there.
right.
Because there's more that God wants to do to give us more things to be able to celebrate.
Yeah.
But at some point, you got to get back to work.
Hmm.
And that's why at church, at Church on Purpose, one of the things that I've been doing every year since our first anniversary, is the week after anniversary, we come out of the celebration of anniversary and we transition straight into vision, and we talk vision for the rest of the month of October, because I want us, in the context of everything that God has already done, I want us then to refocus on what it is that God still desires to do.
Yeah.
Because if not, then we'll get stuck in that place of celebrating what he's already done, and we won't make any space for him to do anything new.
Yeah.
It's we'll get caught up in we ain't never did that before, or we don't do that around here, or
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, because we are still stuck on the victories that we had in the past, not realizing that God has greater victories ahead of us that he still wants us to win.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, man. Like I mean, that's a major key. Like it's interesting because when we, shift to that last quarter of the year anyway, you're thinking about, all right, boom, like what do we accomplish? What do we want to get set? A lot of churches anyway are gearing towards thinking about, all right, what do I want to accomplish? What are the goals I still need to hit for this year? But then also like, all right, let's set the stage for um for the next year, for that's coming, as we mark time, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so that's a lot of the process that we're in. I mean, even for me, as early as August, I some stuff I was thinking about 22, thinking about
in
22
19.
since February, like, you know what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, okay, so when we get to October, this is how we're going to move, like, I'm saying, just trying to figure out all of the nuances of everything. And so
Yeah,
but it's really key, even in our, I think, even in our personal lives, like,
yeah,
you know, because this is the way that we mark time. It's January 1 to December 31. And so
hmm,
as we enter into that fourth quarter of the year, like, it is a time of reflection. It is a time of um, tying up loose ends
hmm,
and plotting the course for the next steps, and thinking through those things. I think, and that's some of the discussion we had before, when I was out in Omaha, about like kind of what do we want to get, what do we want to see in happening in this last quarter? What are the things that we're working towards?
yeah,
Personally, familiarly, professionally, and all of those things. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, because you don't want to get stuck. And I think like that's one of my biggest fears. Honestly, like, I just don't like being stuck. Like, I want to be curious. I want to continue to grow and to learn new stuff and to explore new things.
yeah,
And that's one of the things that, like, even over the course of reflecting up to the second, to my second pastoral anniversary, Mount Carmel, I was thinking about a lot, was just like, man, like, some of the things that I've been saying I wanted to do, like, we actually had a chance to do, because some of it because of the pandemic,
yeah,
um, and we've been able to kind of test some things, and it was just like, all right, so what's the next thing? Like, what is the next piece that we're gonna do? Celebrate that? Cool, that was great. Now it's on to the next, on
yeah,
to the next one. With that whole mindset of moving towards vision over, over everything else. So, Yeah,
Yeah.
man. So we gotta, gotta do that. I don't want to pitch my tent in this moment. I gotta keep
Dude.
moving into what the Lord has for us, because even because after the mountaintop, there is always work in the valley.
Ah,
After the escape, there, after the getaway, there's
yeah.
um, always work to be done, and people to assist, and situations to handle, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but Stacey said, forget the fish fry fundraiser you sponsored 5 years ago. What about stewardship? Let's on the next episode of the Unknown God. Listen, man. Listen, like, and the one thing, and I think one of the interesting dynamics for us is, because you are establishing a culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Through church on purpose. And, I'm learning and um trying to figure out a politically correct word to
Develop, shape,
yeah, there you go.
mold.
I'm trying to say, through the spirit of God, transform and develop and shape and mold, as you say, a culture that's been there, which both of them have their challenges.
Oh yeah. Oh
Both of them
yeah.
have their challenges. Yours might not involve waiting on people to die.
Look, there are different ways you can wander around the wilderness.
Yeah, you're right about that. You are right about that. And it's interesting, man, because I just think about, I've spent a lot of time in like these Exodus narratives over the course of this year. It started the year in Exodus
Yeah.
uh, with Moses, and then just recently went back to the other end of that with Joshua in the
Mm-hmm.
sermon recently. But
Mm-hmm.
but just thinking about, like, how do we get out of the wandering place?
Yeah.
How do we get out of the wandering place? How do we say yes? I did a Bible study called "Don't Miss the Moment." It's just a 2-week piece from Numbers 13 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's talking about, like, man, how the Israelites they tricked off going into the promised land. A whole generation tricked off going to the promised land because they didn't want to believe the guy. They didn't want to believe the guy was giving them the land. They were scared and believed wrong, and listened to the wrong voice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, how do we not become them? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we not miss
Dude.
this moment that we're in,
Yeah.
right? and,
Yeah.
and allow ourselves to, go out and be filled with faith, and to possess the land, and um in our context, whatever that looks like in our context. So
Yeah.
um but yeah, stewardship. Yeah,
I think that that also is one of the beauties and the power of processing significant moments is is how when you reflect and when you look back on those places, those spaces, those situations, how saturated those moments are with nuggets of wisdom,
yeah,
and how and with very clearly applied principles. And I think even as we're talking, having this conversation tonight, I mean, this conversation is a stewardship conversation,
yeah.
because basically what we're talking about is
How do we
what are
manage
we
the moment?
doing with the moments that God is giving us?
Yeah,
Are we managing them well? Are we stewarding these opportunities to pause and to reflect, so that we can be encouraged, so that we can be inspired, so that we can be motivated, but also so that we can be equipped with the lessons from those moments, and with the just all of the nuggets that the Lord wants us to have, that we didn't get the first time the moment came around, and now in reflection the Lord is giving us the opportunity to go back and pick up what we missed, to be able to carry it forward with us. But if we're not pausing to reflect, if we're not taking the time to appreciate that, then we walk down the path in life with less resources than what God has given us. Sometimes, when we feel like we don't have encouragement or we don't have inspiration, it could be because there is encouragement and inspiration in a moment we've already been through, but
yeah,
we didn't steward the moment properly to be able to gather to carry with us
Right.
in our moment of reflection. But thankfully, because of the power of the Holy Spirit, we can return to those and capture those nuggets.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's like my mom used to my mom used to say, "You got to study. You ain't gonna get it by osmosis." But sometimes there's some spiritual osmosis that goes on because sometimes and sometimes it's just a matter of there's some things that you'll get in an immediate pause, but then there's some things that you get when you got some distance.
Hmm.
There's some lessons that you won't really fully receive until there's some distance between the moment between the moment it happened and a moment of significance and where like we're not going to really get COVID and the full impact of what happened until like 15 years from now.
Yeah.
That's when we're going to be able to look back and be like, oh, now we see what um how these things have impacted and shaped and changed us.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. I was listening to Dr. Brianna Parker, who she runs the Black Millennial Cafe, which is a data research firm that is focused on pretty much Black church.
Hmm.
And she said in one of her lives that she had, she said she was reading some of the data that they taken from doing the surveys of Black churches. She was saying that, her question was like, "Yo, who made the boomers mad?" Because what happened was the boomers were mad with the church, but and they didn't like how church and stuff was going on, being and happening. So they stopped making their kids go.
Hmm.
And then the kids just ain't had no real connection. And so then you create this distance and this void. Um, because of this one generation, but that's not something you would have seen right in that moment. But like looking back and reflecting and understanding kind of the trends and the trajectory is something that you see the impact of it down the
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
So it's powerful how these lessons and these significant moments can absolutely um continue to pay dividends,
Where is it?
continue to just
Where'd I put it?
that's it.
I mean, this is a book of significant moments in human history
Right.
that continue to pay dividends,
That's it.
even today. And you're absolutely right. Dr. Pamela Jolly always says, a nugget that she learned from her mother. It's hard to see the full picture when you're posing for it.
Yeah.
You can see bits and pieces of it, but you can't see the whole thing.
Right.
While you're still posing for the picture, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty of just what God is able to do in our lives, is really take everything that happens in our lives and work it together for our good.
Nothing is wasted.
Give us some nuggets in the pain, give us some wisdom in our weariness.
Yeah.
I mean, just it's so amazing. And but we live in a world today that likes for us to be super busy. And in our super busyness, we often don't take the necessary and the needed time to pause, to reflect. And so, I know for me, I'm going to be more intentional about that during these last 2 months of the year, from November and December. I'm intentionally carving out time and space to really reflect and to spend time listening to the Lord and understanding what He's been doing, so that what He desires to do becomes much clearer. And I'm looking forward to that. And but I think we would all benefit from a little reflection time on a
Yeah.
consistent basis.
Building it into my calendar. I've been thinking about how I want to restructure. The summer was, like I said, the summer was really challenging for me on multiple levels.
Hmm.
But it really caused me to rethink how I want my life to be structured in a
Yeah.
way that allows for reflection and pause to be a prominent part of the rhythm of my life, not just because I'm sitting at home and I'm sick,
Yeah.
because
Yep.
I've run myself down, or because I'm tired, or
Yep.
and I just I'm just exhausted from going and going. I need to take a break because then the reflection may not be as fruitful. Um, but how do I, what am I going to do in 22 to intentionally carve out this time to, as you say, to build my life around? That's because that's what Jesus did, right?
Hmm.
Jesus does all of this great stuff. Then he's like, I'm gonna holler at
Peace.
y'all. I gotta go to the mountains for a couple of days. Don't you come looking for me. I got to go talk to my daddy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? He shows
Yeah.
back up and he walks on water. And it's just like, oh, okay. That's why. You know what I'm saying? That's what it allows
Yep.
you to do.
Yep.
And I think we miss, and I think it's what's that like Matthew 14. I think that's what happens in that narrative. It's like he feeds the 5,000, he goes to the mountains to pray. The disciples end up in the boat, and he comes back and he walks on water. But the power isn't in him walking on water. The power comes when he goes to the mountain and disconnects from everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
To reconnect with, well,
to
not to reconnect, but to connect with
yeah, 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 yeah,
his
yeah.
father.
Get quiet and just
Yeah.
just sit and be present. So I think just finding ways to be able to do that is
Yeah.
significant, it's impactful. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, man.
Absolutely. Because I think that, to that point, there are more significant moments in our lives than we appreciate.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much
Well,
so.
this has been a significant moment that I will certainly be reflecting on after this, and I'm optimistic that you will too. I'm hopeful
Yeah,
that you all will too. Um, so Marvin, from this whole conversation, what's kind of one big thing that resonates with you from this conversation about the power of processing significant moments? So share that with the folks, and then we'll remind y'all about how you can plug into upcoming episodes of the Unknown God podcast, and then we'll let you go.
for sure. I think what you said was really significant. Um, Mark the moment, but keep moving. Like, mark the moment, but keep moving. And because what that implies is just what I was talking about. Is it's about rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
It implies that there's a rhythm to this.
Yeah.
Um, and it allows us to engage in those moments and engage in that reflection, and then take what we need and keep moving.
Yeah.
To the next significant moment, and keep and as the senior saints would say, to run on to see what the end is going to be.
Don't nobody want to be stuck in the middle.
Yeah, yeah,
Run to the end. Yeah, I think for me it is, just this idea of reflection being a part of stewardship.
yeah,
You know, geez, um, because that really forces me to think about how many significant moments and the wisdom contained in those that I have wasted throughout my life.
yeah,
And how much more in tune with God could I be? How much wiser could I be? How much more peaceful could I be? How much more assured could I be? How much stronger could my faith be
right,
if I hadn't wasted those moments,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
had been intentional about processing them and allowing God to continue to speak to me beyond that segment of time. But I am grateful that with the power of the Holy Spirit, I can go back and capture some of those nuggets.
yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah.
And I want to say this too, and I hope this comes through, that we were talking about celebratory moments tonight. By and large, these are celebratory moments, but significant moments aren't solely celebratory,
Yeah.
right? The significant moments are moments that significant. I used to use the word that impact us. You know what I'm saying? Like that have
Yeah.
major impact on it. Like, so it's not just some of the significant moments aren't good moments. One of the
Yeah.
most significant moments in my life. It's not a good moment. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I know we were reflecting around celebrations, but really, we probably could do another significant moments and just talking about the bad moments and the low moments and the challenging moments that we've had,
Bruh, the
that have
cross
been
is a
equally as significant.
significant moment in Jesus's life.
It's no joke. The cross is significant. Thank you.
So thank y'all for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
For season 1, episode 2 of the Unknown God podcast. It's our prayer that you have been encouraged tonight. That's something that has been shared. You'll be able to take with you and reflect on and continue to grow closer to God so that you can know him more and know who you are in him more.
Yeah. We appreciate you all hanging out with us tonight. On the screen, for those that are watching, you can see all the places you can connect, follow, all that good stuff, and share with everybody you know. Check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/The Unknown God Pod, on Instagram at The Unknown God Pod, on YouTube. You can search The Unknown God Podcast. We are also under the same moniker for Spotify and Apple Podcast. And if there are other platforms that we need to be on, let us know, because we can be there. We can make it happen. So we'll have this episode up very soon. So if you turn on your notifications, you can get all of the notifications.
I mean, it's true. It's an accurate statement. But thank you all so much for spending your evening with us. We are looking forward to our next episode. You will get a notification about that and what that topic is going to be. We did share some of the upcoming topics with you all in episode 1. So if you missed season 1, episode 1, definitely go back and catch that. We talk a little bit about why this is called the Unknown God Podcast and how we ended up here. So definitely check that out. Check out some of those upcoming topics, and you all will have the opportunity to provide your feedback on things that we're going to talk about here. But we love you. God bless you. And we don't have a tagline yet, but we'll come up with one.
That is a tag. We don't have a tagline yet. We'll come up with one.
The tagline is unknown, so that God doesn't have to be in your life.
Oh man, and with that, we're gonna take it out to the closing. Y'all be easy, man. Have a great night. Peace.
God bless. Oh, did I click the wrong button?
Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Unknown God Pod. Email us with topic suggestions and feedback at theunknowngodpodcast@gmail.com. Podcast production by Real Quick Solutions. Editing and graphics by G Media and Designs. Intro and outro vocals by Jennifer Gilliam. Music by Christ Versal. Thanks for listening as we seek to know more about the unknown God.